Hey folks, this is Robert Quinn here, your LinkedIn semiconductor industry content provider. I wanted to apologize for the technical difficulties we had earlier, and today I would like to introduce Ray Zinn to our LinkedIn Live series called Movers and Shakers, where we will interview leaders in the semiconductor industry. Now, let me take you back a little bit to give you a little history in the semiconductor industry. Ray joined Fairchild Semiconductor Corporation in 1963. Uh, in the year 1968, uh, might I remind you, the same year that Intel was created, Ray had moved on to hold various executive management positions at several semiconductor-related companies. One of those companies was called Electromask, where Ray conceptualized the wafer stepper and sold it before it had been designed or engineered to Texas Instruments. As a tenured executive in 1978, Ray co-founded a semiconductor company called Micrel, where Micrel, sorry, and where Ray wore many hats throughout his years. That included as acting CEO. In 2015, Micrel was sold to Microchip Technology, who carries out the legacy of their inventions and products created by Ray and his teams. Ray, this is an incredible bio. I would like to thank you for joining us today. I mean, wow. Thank you so much for being here today with us.
You're welcome. So I actually was the founder, CEO, and president for the entire time from 1978 to 19. For 2015. Sorry. So that's 37 years.
Wow. That's incredible. Ray, when you co-founded Micrel Semiconductor in 1978, did you know that semiconductors would become arguably one of the most valuable global currencies we have today? I mean, it's just been amazing seeing the industry change, and what we're seeing has just been unbelievable.
I did. I was convinced, and that's why I joined Fairchild back in '63. My father-in-law was working there, and he was talking all about the technology and what it was going to do. And back in the day, we're using vacuum tubes, and there was a few semiconductor companies. TI had already started with using germanium, and so when Noise started at Fairchild, we using that planar silicon technology, which was a new invention, which really led to where we are today as far as the silicon technology. That's why they call the Bay Area Silicon Valley, is because we started using silicon and then using planar technology. And so back in the day, about 80 to 90% of all semiconductors were sold to the military. And we used to charge like $2,000 for a transistor. I mean, $2,000 back in '63 for just a little device that could amplify or could just switch. So thinking about today, we have billions and billions of transistors, and they're selling for hundreds of a cent per transistor compared to $2,000 for a transistor. And it was just amazing. The amount of money we got for those transistors. But this is back in the early '60s, and military was the big consumer of it, because nobody could afford to pay $2,000 for a transistor to put it in a radio. So it wasn't until probably '68 when Noyce and Company left and went to Intel, or formed Intel, that we really started making semiconductors really inexpensively.
Right. Wow. Well, and so, I mean, you've been keeping up with what's been going on over this last year and a half. In the last 18 months, we've seen the semiconductor supply chain just get crushed with global shortages, impacting just about every industry. You've been in the industry for decades. Have you ever seen shortages like these before? How do you think the industry can solve these shortages, Ray?
Well, we've had shortages before, but nothing like this. I mean, we've had this pandemic for 2 years, and so the semiconductor industry became very, very diversified as far as where we manufactured our products. Uh, Back in the early 70s, we started manufacturing, at least the assembly of the products and testing assembly offshore, as we call it. Offshoring is a term we use.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, it wasn't but a few years later that we started, building fabs offshore in Italy, France, Germany, England. Started having wafer fabrication facilities in those countries. And then pretty soon, we had Japan starting up manufacturing wafers, and and then Taiwan, and then Singapore, and China and Korea, and it just started proliferating. And Russia, of course, jumped in because they used our technology, and so the industry became very fragmented in the 70s, and our late 80s, early 70s became very fragmented. I would say at least 80% of the semiconductor industry resided in Silicon Valley, and that the mid to late 60s, and so once it got fragmented, then of course you had, when the pandemic hit, you had all these different places where different rules and regulations regarding working and how close they could work together, and so some of these factories were slowed down. They shut down certain shifts. People had to work from home. I mean, it just caused a real disruption in the industry because of the fact it was so fragmented, and the industry had also cut back on how much inventory they carried. This is going back before the pandemic, because Wall Street would punish you if you had lots of inventory. So we tried to hold something like 70, 80 days of inventory, and that's only a few months, and so it didn't take long for that inventory to run out, and it got disjointed, and you try to figure out what was needed, and what you could produce and where you could produce it, and it just became a real jumbled mess, and so it's taken time to catch up. You don't just flip a switch and the industry starts producing again. It takes roughly 3 months, depending again upon the complexity of the process, to process a chip from start to finish. And so, if you figure if it takes you 3 months, and you have to look at the hole you make in the system, and again, everybody is juggling around trying to figure out what's important, how do we prioritize what chips, and so it's understandable. I mean, our industry, because we make the wafer in one place, we assemble them and test them in another place, and you can see how the thing got really upside down.
Right. Wow. Yeah, it's been interesting seeing how everything is being handled, and we're experiencing just super exciting times in the industry. In the last year, we've seen domestic semiconductor industry investment just skyrocket. Just the last 2 years, we've seen the U.S. government propose to invest $52 billion. We've seen Samsung commit to invest $17 billion. Intel's investing something like committing to invest something like $40 billion. TSMC is investing $12 billion. Ray, you've been involved in the industry since the beginning. Can you tell us what you think about this surge of investment? Is there a risk to too much investment, or could we have a supply glut or overproduction? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's multiplicity of things going on. You have the China Taiwan debacle. People are concerned about that, the impact that might have. You also have the pandemic. On top of that, you got the issues in Russia and Ukraine. You got just a lot of turmoil, and so in my mind anyway, uh, electronics drives GDP. In other words, that's the we look at what is the main driver for non-discretionary income. That's food and housing and whatnot. But then you have discretionary income, which is all of the appliances, the electronics. And so goes the electronics industry, so goes GDP. But semiconductors are really the heart of electronics, and for military and defense and just the whole. We're all connected now through the internet, and for crying out loud, you really have the semiconductor is the heart of it. I mean, it's like the heart, as you would of our growth and of all countries' growth, and so the semiconductor really has become, probably in my mind, the most important item that is currently available, for us in our daily lives, and so automobiles are going electric, and so you just have this fantastic demand for semiconductors, and our country, the United States, has got to protect that to some degree. I think they can protect it in 5 years, if we control the availability of the process equipment to make the chips. If we can control that to some degree, then we can maintain a lead within 5 years. I mean, we could dominate it again within 5 years. And so you're kind of seeing that now with the investment that's going on, is we're trying to make that more U.S. centric as opposed to letting it just be so ubiquitous around the world.
I like to say it's nationalism, silicon nationalism. It's amazing. So Ray is the longest standing CEO in Silicon Valley. What is your advice for other industry leaders? I've been reading your book, and I know you have lots of great advice.
Well, Ed, we have to keep the technology, at least to the degree we can. We have to keep it as a jewel or as a precious item in our country, in the U.S. If we're going to remain the global leader, the only way I think we can do that is still maintaining the leadership in semiconductors. And so I think we have to figure out a way to get the government convinced that we need to protect this technology to the degree we can. So my advice to our listeners out there is, support the semiconductor industry. It is key to the leadership of any country around the world. And so in my mind, the country that controls that technology also controls the growth and development of their country. So that's, since I founded Micrel in '78, I swore we would never be that dependent on any other country other than the U.S. So we kept all of our fab technology in the U.S. We made sure that we didn't proliferate it around the world, and so I think that we had our own fab here in Silicon Valley, in San Jose, California, and we were applauded by some and rejected by others, because back when we were looking at developing our fab here in the Bay Area, they laughed at us, saying everybody's moving out. Nobody's doing wafer fabrication in Silicon Valley. But I believed in Silicon Valley. I believed in having the heart of the chip, which is the silicon, here in the valley. So that was the goal we had, and we kept it all the way until we sold the company in 2015.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, it's you really did an amazing job at that. Ray, I would like to thank you so much for coming to the show and having a chat with me today. I'm sure my viewers have interest in your book and all your. I've been reading the book here, and I would love to what is let the viewers know about your books and other books that you've authored. Can you tell us more about the different books that you have and where the reviewers can purchase your books?
Sure. So my first book was called Tough Things First by McGraw-Hill. It's become a textbook at 6 universities. It really just talks about how to run a business. Being Silicon Valley's longest serving CEO, I thought I would share my knowledge of running a company. 9 out of 10 startups fail because they really don't know how to really run a business. And running a high-tech business is not easy. And so I cover that in my book, Tough Things First. And the title of it says it all. If you can do the tough things first every morning, the rest of the day goes really well. It's called eating that ugly frog first thing. So if you can get that ugly frog down and get it out of the way, the rest of the day goes wonderfully. And I've done that even to this very day. I do the tough things first, including trying to get on this podcast. So then I've written 2 other books called Zinn of Zen, Zen of Zinn, which are more or less musings and sayings and thoughts that you can put, on your refrigerator or your mirror in your bathroom. Little thoughts every day that you can help you, motivate you, and get you all enthusiastic and ready to just take on the world. And so I did Zinn of Zen, which is my first one. Then I Zinn of Zen 2, which was the second one. And now I'm finishing Zinn of Zen 3. Oh, wow. So I have written more musings than Solomon. So I've written over 3,000. So anyway, wow. You can look at these sayings. A lot of them are similar, but they're said in a different way. Wow. And so they're just little thoughts that you can use to help motivate you and keep you going. So Waldo Emerson said, that which we persist in doing becomes easier. Not that the nature of the task changes, but our ability to perform it becomes easier. So that goes to the kind of sayings that I do and I write in these books. And so they're just to help people, keep them fired up and motivated, Mark Twain kind of things, little sayings that you can kind of incorporate in your life. And that's kind of what I do. And I also enjoy just teaching at the various universities. I have a program called Zen Starter, which is like a Shark Tank for universities that I help fund these students in their projects and help develop their entrepreneurship as you would. So I teach entrepreneurship at various universities and then help fund programs like a Shark Tank kind of thing at the different schools. And so I enjoy doing that and helping these students out, through scholarships and other ways to help develop, entrepreneurship as you would around our country.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Ray. And I would like to thank Moov Technologies for sponsoring this Movers and Shakers show. As we deep dive into the semiconductor industry with some of the top industry leaders. If you have any used or refurbished equipment you would like to buy or sell, or have any, if you'd like to reach out to me on LinkedIn, or if you'd like to check out the Moov webpage at www.moov.co. Ray, I would like to thank you for coming out, and everybody, thank you again for watching our Movers and Shakers LinkedIn Live series, and have a great day.
Thank you.